talk now about Babylon 5, and he is streaming this to his channel. Welcome back, Baron Orban Tag.
Hey, I hope you don't mind doing that, but yeah. Sure.
No, go ahead.
Get a little bit more exposure out there. Thank you for having me back. Looking forward to it. We have had a lot of fun the last time talking to Warhammer. Of course, that scratched the surface. There's more to even talk about with that one. So, yeah, there's many different types of fandom out there. You know, your Fandomology, fandoms collide, and there is a lot of stuff out there that people haven't really heard of. Are not that versed in. Babylon 5, of course, we're talking about tonight. Probably a little bit more well-known amongst the fandoms, but it's amazing there's still a lot of people who have not seen this show. And
count me as one of them. I've seen only one episode.
One episode, yep. Midnight on the Firing Line, yeah.
Yes.
But you know, there's other stuff out there via Blake 7, which is a British TV show, which helped inspire one of the inspirations for Babylon 5, amongst other things. Of course, you know, all across the board, you know, even the original Battlestar and the original the Buck Rogers series. There's a lot of stuff out there. Yeah, I mean, some of it's cheesy fun, but you know, what's wrong with that? You know, fandom needs to have that as well. So
absolutely. So real quick, hello in the chat to, of course, you said, everyone grab a plate of spoo and enjoy the show tonight. And hello also to Blazerhawk Darren, who said, count me to, never saw it either. Well,
and so what's good? Sorry.
So kind of, I feel like you're about to touch on this too, but right off the bat, it's okay that you've never saw it, Darren, and it's okay that I've never seen it either, because that's what Beginner Series is all about. The intention behind Beginner Series is to bring everyone's attention to something that perhaps everyone isn't aware of and present it in such a way. Basically, you want to learn how to get into a certain fandom, come to these streams. That's what we're doing. So with that, Babylon 5. So let's start with sort of the out of universe, like production stuff. Like, where did this idea come from?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, you know, as it goes, I never looked down someone who's never seen this stuff. First of all, I just want to sit back and say, in fact, in some way, I'm a little envious because it's like, oh, I wish I could go through it again without, you know, an experience it the first time again. So everyone's in for a wild ride. But when it comes to the Babylon 5, J. Michael Straczynski, who is the creator of the show and wrote a vast majority of the episodes. I mean, every episode of season 3, every episode of season 4, every episode except for one of season 5, and quite a chunk full of the second season. And then, of course, needless to say, the first season, his fingerprints are all over it. And as he said, it hit him in a shower. He was taking a shower around 1988, and this whole concept of a book, you know, where all good ideas come from. I mean,
exactly, right?
Exactly. All great ideas come in the showers, it seems like. So, you know, we almost either have like a waterproof tablet or typewriter or something to be able to write these things down when you're in the shower.
Yeah. I'm surprised I ain't written a song in the shower yet.
It'll happen. It'll happen. Trust me. It'll happen. And you have the greatest speeches in the world in the shower as well. But once you get out of it, you're going to forget and trip over it. Hey, Super Wrench, John Rendell. Good to see you, my friend.
Thanks for coming by.
And Straczynski had worked on quite a bit of stuff people might be familiar with. Of course, the original He-Man series. He was principal in that, wrote some influential episodes of that. The Real Ghostbusters, he was involved with that series as well. Murder, She Wrote, he wrote episodes of that. He was involved with the Twilight Zone revival in the 80s, along with Harlan Ellison. And of course, Captain Power in the Captain Power series, which was basically all it was a giant commercial series, literally, because you had your toys, you could interact with the television show or the videotapes. It all depends. And
that sounds interesting.
And which for a child series or a kid show or whatever you want to call it was actually pretty grown up. It dealt with some dark subject matters, and even had one of the main cast members at the end. But yeah.
Thanks, Darren. Yep. Your biggest hit song will be inspired when you're. Thank you, Darren.
You got it.
Let's hope it happens soon.
So, he came up with this idea in there. He, of course, needless to say, basically wrote down ideas on paper. Even was visualizing who he wanted to have for the parks, like John Rhys Davies to play Commander Sinclair was one of his dreams. Another one was to have Bruce Willis play Garibaldi. At that time in 1988, Bruce Willis wasn't this huge star at the time. So when you coming up to that conclusion, it's like, yeah, it's possible. Die Hard happens, forget it. But he got someone, I think, even better to play the part, the late, great Jerry Doyle. So he had this, and needless to say, he went out and he tried shopping it around for many years. In fact, I remember, I don't know, it's Pax Summers, a magazine called periodical Aboriginal Science Fiction Tales, I believe is the name of the periodical. It's like amazing stories and stuff like that, Asimov. And they had in there in 1988 where they sat back that J. Michael Zizinski was pitching a series, Babylon 5. The first time I can find any reference to it in the past, and it was 1988. So needless to say, he was very successful on having doors being slammed in his face on that. Of course, he's still a hardworking guy, but he's still working on this. I mean, what a concept to have. And, we all familiar with miniseries, right? It's going to last over 3 nights, 2 hours a night, miniseries or whatnot. This was a maxi series. This was one where it has an intended beginning, has an intended middle, and has an intended ending. And that's it. And it's going to be over 5 years. And, if you take a look at it, it's like each season is a book, kind of like if you look at Lord of the Rings, there are 3 books, technically 6 if you want to count. But hey, pop culture minefield. I'm assuming that's Gary. I'm assuming that's Gary in there.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
And
I do want to say real quick to those that are tuning in on Barron's channel, make sure you guys come over to my channel and subscribe too if you haven't already. Yeah,
please do. This is what we're doing. We're trying to make sure Paul gets this series out there, which is the reason why I put it on there, so you see it, and hopefully every Tuesday he'll have a show like this with all sorts of different topics.
Absolutely.
So with
I'll get you a link real quick for you.
Yeah. And so he goes out shopping, getting the doors slammed into his face. And it's the early 90s. And he goes to, of course, Paramount Pictures. And Paramount Pictures says, no, we don't want, we already got a space show. It's kind of a replay of 20 years before when Roddenberry was going around pitching Star Trek, and he goes to the one studio. No, we got Lost in Space, So, which was one of the studios going, no, we don't want you.
Gotcha.
But Primetime Entertainment Network was being devised by the powers that be with Warner Brothers. They wanted to try their hand at having a third network. A fourth network, like Fox. They want to have their Fox.
Okay.
So, so what happens? They have this lineup, and it consists of Time Tracks, which Harv Bennett was known for the Star Trek movies. Did you had Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, and then of course, basically the one they're banking a lot on was this new science fiction show called Babylon 5, and it came out as a movie, the same year DS9 came out. And a lot of people noticed I think we lost Paul, but I'm still here. I'll keep talking, folks, really. I bored him to death. That's what happened. So, being that he did do that.
Did you just blip off for a second?
I don't know if I blipped out or you blipped out. I was
it was
center,
me.
Man. It was you, man. It was you, man.
I don't know what happened, but StreamYard just crashed for me.
As it goes, they are kind of funny that way.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of funny that way lately. They're doing screwy things. We're doing screwy things the other day on Sunday, all across the board. So, so was here false disagree. That's me.
Thank you, John.
Some of the stuff that he had intended to do, and you saw a little bit with that pilot movie, was having a shapeshifter in there.
Right.
And you saw a little bit of that in the pilot movie called The Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And but in reality, what it was a changeling suit, as they called it. So it wasn't a true to that from a person who could actually do the shape changing to being a suit to do that. Needless to say, Odo was there, so Odo.
Right.
What you get one of the things of contention that is this being copied by Paramount? And there was a little, what would you say, talks that there might be. What would you say, going out to sue or whatever, but in the long run that was put aside, even though J. Mike Krasinski, I'm going to call him JMS, had a credible case on this.
Right.
So they had the pilot movie, and it was kind of lukewarm response to it. And basically,
thank you, Pop Culture Minefield. Greatly appreciated.
And what they did was they, kind of retooled it a little bit for that second season. They got, money, got things all cleaned up, and such. But between the year of the movie and the first
See you later, man.
They weren't able to get a lot of the same cast members back. They had to replace the first officer. They had to replace the doctor. But they kept, of course, the commander was able to say Michael O'Hara, Jerry Doyle, and of course our aliens. And that's the one thing they said in the reviews for The Gathering was everybody.
What's going on here?
I wish I could say something, but I can't say on this channel. But it has F and follows with a U, Gary, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Good job.
So you had those changes, which was kind of the first stumbling block he had, because there were things with those characters you want to do with, but as you're going along, it's like, okay, where can we change this? And characters got changed. And then you had Midnight on the Firing Line a year later, which was a drastic improvement. And that was what really drew me in. They were saying that the aliens, the people who play the aliens, Delenn, Jakar, Lando Malari, they were exceptional. They thought Jerry Doyle, they thought was great, but everybody else they thought was wooden and stiff in that. Everyone was that stiff in that first pilot movie. And JMS himself wasn't really happy with it. I think On the Firing Line is what really got it going. It's a very pivotal episode because it set the tone right away. There are things in that episode that are going to be important down the road. I mean, many different things. But this is a fast introduction to my universe. Another thing is he wanted to be a bit different. One, with the station, he was using the O'Neill idea plan for a space station where you basically have a cylindrical tube that rotates with the gravity in there, which was something that you really didn't see in science fiction. You saw the wheels, such as like 2001 and other stuff. But here you have a 5-mile long space station. And it's spinning. The Earth ships, if they have gravity, they have to have this the sections rotate as well. Something we really didn't see much in science fiction. The battleships that we'd see later on, the Omega class destroyers, as they call them, were inspired off of the ship from 2010, the Leonov, where, if you take a look at it, it's like, there's definitely the inspiration with the rotating sections and such. Then you had the starfighters. Oh, I should. I'd love to do that.
I haven't talked to Fat Steven in a while.
Yeah, I haven't talked to old Fats in a little bit either. I know Mike has, but I haven't. I need to talk to him.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He really is. Has a big heart. A lot of people don't know that, but he's got a big heart. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah.
But trying to do a little bit more scientific. I have to. That's my job.
That's the whole point of this stream, honestly.
Oh, I love it when Gary harasses me. I love it. But he wanted to go with a little bit more scientific accuracy than the stuff. So you saw that first episode, and the thing that grabbed me was the space battle with the fighters,
right?
And how they reacted in space. And it's like, whoa, this is a lot more scientifically accurate than what we see with Star Wars, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica,
even Star Trek to an extent.
Exactly, yeah, because Star Trek, as great a show as it is, and such, it's still science. It was still in the form of a space opera, as well as what it was. So that was nice for this, which is also a space opera. But with that, it gave it its own flavor, its own tone. You could see right away this wasn't a copy paste. This show was on its own. It had its own. It definitely had its own fingerprint, no doubt about it. So, similarities between Babylon 5 and Star Trek. Well, about the only one is they made you think. Well-written episodes, usually.
Okay.
Thinkers. Everything has a thinker. Everyone has a stinker. But
Gary says that Babylon 5 had that same kind of realistic sci-fi gene put into Trek.
Yes. And it did. And needless to say, obviously with 20 years difference in what we knew, found out with scientific, obviously there's different ways of space travel where in Star Trek you had warping space, since warp. And Babylon 5 is hopping into basically a parallel universe called hyperspace and using that to traverse between the 2 points faster than the speed of light.
Dune is literally folding space.
Yep. Travel without moving, as it has for Dune. So with that, you could see that, the scientific thoughts, definitely two different ways of going. And you really can't really argue because, again, FTL, that's still debatable how we're going to do that. It's just, how close can we get to making it seem realistic? Star Trek has this way. Babylon 5 has this other way. When you go into the warp, into hyperspace, it's like a hellscape. You take a look at it, it's like I don't want to stay here too long type of stuff. Let's get to point A to point B as fast as possible. So with that, he wanted a what would you call a UN in space, because this is 10 years after basically a genocidal war. A group of people called the Minbari, which Ambassador Delenn belongs to, were perpetrating against Earth because of an incident that happened where their leader Dukat, not to be confused with Gul Dukat of DS9, was killed in the first contact, gone wrong. And with that, they decide, okay, we're going to wipe you all out. And the war was right at the back door of Earth, and they were about to win, and then they surrender. They didn't stop.
And then something about the Narn giving Earth weapons during that war too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Narns were more than happy to be suppliers of weapons, and other people too. It wasn't just Earth, which is the other the Narn regime, which is the other political body, which had recently got their freedom from the Centauri Republic, which is kind of a Italianish, Romanish type of empire, and where you see a lot of parallels with that in there, and the French court as well, who had ruled the Narn with an iron fist. And needless to say, those two group of people don't like each other, so it makes things interesting between Ambassador Jakar of the Narn and Lando Milari of the Centauri Republic. So those are the three movers and shakers. And then you have the other force that comes in, that's the Vorlon, the mysterious race, the Vorlons, and no one really knows much about them.
They're the ones that just respond in one-word answers, right?
One-word answers are just in basically in puzzles. It all depends on what it is. How will it end? In fire. It is the hour of scampering. It's stuff like that. But there's cryptic meanings behind some of the stuff that he says. It's like who's going to come? Who's going to ascend? Who's going to be better? The Narn or who's going to be around in the future? Will the Narn be destroyed, or does Centauri be destroyed in the future? And all good old Kosh, the Vorlon, says is yes. So, and he is one of the last remaining of what you call the first ones. So you're seeing.
Hey, Leah.
Leah wrote, the president and sole member of the Phil McCracken fan club, by the way. What you're seeing is J. Michael Straczynski grabbing so many of the things, just like Gene Roddenberry and George Lucas, grabbing stuff that they grew up with and they loved, and they wanted to explore styles and themes. Well, one of which is the Lensman series by E.E. Doc Smith, where you have basically a conflict between two great elder species, elder races, and we're the pawns. And you had that with the Lensman series, and then what we do once that's over with. So you have that in there. You have of course, all the history, like I was pointing out. You have the historical references. Of course, Star Trek. A lot of people don't realize that JMS did write a Star Trek comic at one time for DC Comics.
So how'd that go?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was before he did Babylon 5. So, but he's a comic book writer. He knows the genres, and he does love Star Trek. He even wanted to. He even pitched a reboot of Star Trek in the mid 2000s after Enterprise to try to get going again, which would have been a lot better than J.J. Abrams. But that's neither here nor there. So these are things that he grabs inspired from, and of course Harlan Ellison, who he brought on as a consultant on the show, which basically Harlan just said this, JMS comes by, talks to me, I say whether it's good or bad, that kind of stuff. But it was great having that in there, and of course for the first two seasons he was able to grab in some powerhouse writers. He had David Gerald write a story as well. David Gerald wrote a couple issues of the comic book series of Babylon 5. DC Fontana wrote an episode. The biggest crime is that Peter David wrote for Babylon 5, but never wrote an episode of any of the Star Trek series, which he should have.
But he did write some of their books.
Right. He wrote quite a few of their books. Yes. I believe the Centauri Republic trilogy. Then he wrote, I believe, in the comics. Yeah.
Hey, Crit.
It's Saturday.
Right. Yes, for those that don't know, Baron does a review of Babylon 5 on his channel on Saturday, but
7 o'clock. Yep.
Yes, at 7 o'clock.
So you have all that. You even have the influence, like I said, a show called Blake 7 out of England. Doctor Who, obviously, when you look at it, he was a fan of and inspired off of. So you have these some of these powerhouses coming in the right, as well as him and some of the others. You even had you even had.
I'm not a Centauri, Crit. I'm a Narn.
He's got the chin for it.
Thank you.
Well, so we have that going there. Where was I before? Thanks, Crit. Thanks a lot, Crit. Throwing me off the track there, Crit. Way to go, Crit.
I think we're talking about all the different inspirations
JMS
had.
Yeah, and you can see stuff like the Foundation series inspiring some of it. talking about empire building, empires crumbling, empires being rebuilt. Dune, obviously there's a little bit of Dune. So you grab all that stuff, just like anybody has done, and put it in a pot and you stir, and you hope you have a good soup. And pretty much did. Another influence was the author, Alfred Bester. And of course, if that name sounds familiar, that was also the name of the Psychop. Yes, you did, Gary.
That is the first time I've ever seen that comic come across my channel.
Hey, this is better than that. This is better than that. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Don't hand that malarkey. Don't be a lion pony faced dog soldier. But don't
make Corn Pop disappointed in you.
No. He's a bad dude. He's a bad dude.
Oh my goodness.
But you heard the name Alfred Bester. That was the name of course, the Psychop in there, and the reason why Alfred Bester wrote a pinnacle book about telepathic psi abilities in the book The Demolished Man. And he kind of had a little bit of a follow-up. That was more with people having the ability to transport themselves around, teleport around. And that was the book Tiger, as it was released in the UK. We know it as Stars My Destination. Which I heavily recommend anybody to read both of those books. I really do. And that's another thing he'll do. He'll throw in people's names like that.
Hello to Low Spec Linux Laptop. Thanks for joining.
Everyone's favorite penguin besides Punk Waddle.
Gary's getting a little weird in the chat.
Oh yeah. That's
I'm not gonna highlight that, but is that
no
normal?
Problem. Oh, that's Gary. That's Gary, all right. Yeah, he's
okay.
You think I'm wild? You think I'm wild? This guy has me beat.
Oh wow.
Beat. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm tame compared to him.
Fair enough.
So, with these inspirations of classic Golden Age science fiction and Silver Age science fiction and such, you have a good recipe to have a show. And that's what he did. And that was inspiration. He wanted to use scientific knowledge that we have today. It's the image behind me where you see all these colors in space. Well, as he said, the one thing that Hubble and many of the probes showed us that space is rather colorful. He just yeeted himself. Who was the best guest writer on Babylon 5? Ooh. I might be tarred and feathered because I'm not going to say Neil Gaiman. I would say it was Peter David.
It did it again.
I would say, it did it again.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I had you covered. I carried you, man. Thank you. Even with the bad back, I carried you. I would say it's Peter David was the best one because one of the things that I found with Peter David is when he goes into a universe, he's very respectful of it, and he gets right into the crux of it. Plus, the 2 episodes he wrote were just gems. I actually have one of his scripts that he had autographed by him and JMS. DC Fontana, again, did a great work. I didn't think David Gerald did that good of an episode. He went in there too much with knife in hand and a little bit too preachy with his story. But yeah, DC Fontana, excellent too on that one. But I would say Peter David, Fontana, Neil Gaiman, and then last David Gerald, I would say, in that order.
Okay.
Even though I do have a copy of the script of The Day of the Dead by Neil Gaiman signed by him, he used to live not too far from me, so please don't let him know. I used to run into him quite a bit, actually. I actually ran into him at a Renaissance festival, just walking along, and there was Neil, and I gave him a nod. He nodded back, so it's like, we acknowledge each other, but I'm not going to bother the poor guy.
Nice.
Yeah. So he used to live Minneapolis area, and I think Wisconsin, and I don't know where he is now, but
I gotcha.
He was in this area.
All right. So with all of that being said, all of the sort of out of universe stuff taken into account, let's now dive in universe and talk about, because we've already talked about like who the Minbari are, who the Centauri are, the Narn. What is Earth's relation to all of this? What role this UN in space that you mentioned? What role does Earth serve?
Earth is one of the, what would you say, one of the more up and coming powers in this universe. They had, before the Minbari War, the Delgar Wars, which they absolutely were successful in. So when it came around the time with meeting of the Minbari, Earth was a little cocky. They, it's like, hey, we're these big guys out there. Even though they were being warned by the Centauri were in contact with Earth, and of course the Narn, and they were saying, be careful out there. Be careful. There are people out there that don't want to mess with them. And
True.
They came across the Minbari, a very a spiritual race, but also a warrior race. They broken into three castes: the worker, the warrior, and then of course the religious caste, which makes up their great council. And that was their first foray of coming across a group of people that really were far more advanced than they were. Okay. And it set them back. And there is a little bit, you might say, xenophobia in some areas with Earth because of that, being how close they were to being annihilated. You also have others that, they want to go out there and they want to explore, but they want it for money, like international or intergalactic planetary expeditions, IPX. You got people that just want to make a living. I mean, you see people just going around with their ships and trying to either survey for themselves and the old, like the old time scouts surveying, or they just need to get cargo from point A to point B. It's not this harmonious kumbaya Star Trek United Federation, because this is one Earth government and her colonies, and and other space stations out there. Yeah, you take care, Gary. Talk to you later, man.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, great to see you, man. Love you. I said I just didn't know him because he wants me to say the other one, but we're on your team. I can't say it. Yeah. Okay. So they're the up and comers, but they're not quite there yet, and they're showing promise in the universe. And now, after having their great victory, now they got slapped down. They figure this is a time to try to prevent a war that almost annihilated us, and that's where the Babylon Project came to be. And they started building the first Babylon station, which was sabotaged. So they took what was left of that station and built another one, Babylon 2, which along the way got sabotaged. Well, they picked up the parts for that one and then went with trying to do Babylon 3.
I think I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Right. Boom. Okay. So let's get the parts and all that and reuse them. And now we have the most ambitious project ever, and that's Babylon 4. And this station is even bigger than Babylon 5. And they get that thing done, and she's pretty, and she's all set to go. And then about 24 hours before going online, poof, she disappears.
Like just vanishes.
Just vanishes. Yep.
Wow.
Just vanishes. So being strapped for cash, they went with Babylon 5, which was technically a little bit more inferior than what they wanted to have. They had backing from the Minbari government, which many on Earth didn't like. In fact, Minbari had their pick of commanders, and they went with this Commander Sinclair, who was on what they called the line. It was 200 fighters protecting the Earth as they were coming to destroy, trying to come and destroy Earth. And as he said, every star was a ship exploding, as Sinclair said. But for some reason, he was zapped, brought up. Yep, there he is, played by Michael O'Hare. Unfortunately, he passed away. He was sucked up into one of the ships, and it was because of that they came to the conclusion that no, we're going to have peace. We're going to stop. It's stopping now. And he has no recollection of that time that he was on board Babylon 5, which has a little bit of suspicious on him, too. I mean, on board the Minbari ship, which has a little bit of suspicion on him. So the fact that the Minbari were so adamant for him to be the commander puts a little bit of stress on this man. He's a lot more zen than you would expect from a commanding officer, much more introspective, not that much, as gung-ho. And he decides to bring in basically a band of losers. Garibaldi, who is the chief of the security, he was been bounced around from job to job and had a drinking problem, but this was his last chance. And when no one else was going to give him a chance, Commander Sinclair says, "Come on board. I got a job for you. Let's do it." Even the first, his first officer, the first one he had, she had problems too, especially with the corruption within Earth Force. And he says, "Okay, come on. You're my first officer on here." So he gets his lovable band of misfits. Of course, you have Lando Malari. He's sent there. And
yep. Let me bring up his picture real quick.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And
this, I just want to say, having only seen Midnight on the Firing Line, this guy is my favorite character.
Yes. And one reason why is the actor, Peter Jurasik. He was in shows like Hill Street Blues, and I think he was in Beverly Hills Bunts. I can't remember. He was also in Tron. He was the accounting program that was wiped out early on in the movie, in the middle of the games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was just a simple accounting program. And having this job on Babylon 5 was actually looked down upon. It was like, we're going to give it to the loser. So Lando Malari is the loser that got set there. But Earth is wanting to have them all come together, try to have this place to work out the problems. And of course, as I said earlier, two of the problems is Narn and Centauri. They hate each other's guts.
There's a Narn right there.
Yeah, and that is Jakar, played by the late, great Andreas Katsulas. And I am, and I'm not just blowing smoke saying great. He was a great actor. And if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for him, we would not have such a great character, and we would not have great chemistry and dynamic between him and Lando Malari. Of course, the Minbari, they send their emissary, who is secretly a member of their Great Council. Jakar knows this, and Delenn, who is the ambassador, informs him greatly informs him never to say Great Council around me again if you want to live.
Okay.
So, so as you can see, we got that tension going on between everybody there, and this is Earth's, hope. Is why Babylon 5? Why not? We never just give up. We keep on going. We don't know any better. We don't know any better.
Also, since we brought him up, here's Garibaldi.
Yep, played by the late great Michael Jerry Doyle. He was this guy was a professional liar. I'm talking about Jerry Doyle. When he put down for his resume, he put down like the Harlem School of Dancing as one of the things on his resume.
That doesn't even sound like a real thing.
Right. I mean, it was basically him writing up his resume the way he did, and the fact that you could tell he had the look and he had the attitude that we want this guy. We want this guy. And
says that's the cheap man's Bruce Willis.
I have to sit back and see the other way around. Bruce Willis is a cheap man's Jerry Doyle, because he nailed this role. He nailed this role. As everyone sat back and said, Jerry Doyle was the ultimate perfectionist on the show. He would walk on, and he would know everything about what was being shot that day, the lines, everything, and he expected everybody else to do. And JMS sat back and said, he would go out sometimes and drink till Lord knows when, come in all hang-dogged and hung over and all that. But the moment he said action, he was right there on delivering his role. And that's what he did that. He expected everybody else to do that. And he even got into a ruckus. He got into a ruckus with an award-winning guest star. I don't know who it is. I can only assume, but He got upset and dressed down one of the guest stars because he didn't think they were taking this serious. It's like, come on, we're working here. This is, this might be a little TV show, but still, it's work here. This is our paycheck. Come on, get to work.
Okay.
So, a lot of Garibaldi was in Jerry Doyle.
I could believe that.
Mm-hmm. And again, that's what made him so good on the show. These guys that were either wearing the masks or what, taking everything very serious about this.
Yep.
And for low budget, being done in a former hot tub factory.
A hot tub factory.
Hot tub factory. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
And since you mentioned the first officer, here she is.
Yep. Now she is the second one to play the first officer. She was not in the original movie. That, of course, is the beautiful Claudia Christian as Susan Ivanova. She is a Russian Jew, and she is, of course, her family is from Russia. Her mother was a telepath, but she did not want to join Psi Corps, so they gave her drugs to suppress her psi abilities. And they'd come like every week or so to administer the drugs. And eventually she could not handle the anymore, and she committed suicide. And affected Claudia Ivanova, and why she has an extreme hatred for Psi Corps. Extreme. And that's the other thing about, when you see about Earth, you had advancements with a group of people having psi abilities, being able to read minds and such. And so they came up with Psi Corps, and it's supposed to help protect us from the telepaths, from them invading our minds to use and abusing. They can't gamble. They can't do, they have to wear gloves, so they don't have to touch you and be able to use that to help get thoughts, stuff like that. But the people in Psi Corps started to believe that they were a higher evolved, the next step. They were above other human beings. So now you have that struggle going on of basically psi supremacy in there. So, and of course, you have people in Psi Corps, obviously that's not the case, right? But basically the powers that be, including Alfred Bester, think that way. They look at regular humans as ants.
And this is the first telepath that we meet in the show.
No, actually, the second one. She's the second one. In the movie, it was Lita Alexander, Patricia Tallman. But between that movie and the first season, something happened where she was unable to come back. So they hired. I got a middle block on her name right now, but it's Talia Winter. So she's the second Psi Corps. Telepath sanction that they have on the station to be used for negotiations and such. She in real life was married to Jerry Doyle. So it's until they broke up. She only was on the show for 2 seasons. Then Patricia Tallman came back and continued doing her part in Babylon 5.
I want to bring up something real quick, because looking at this picture, it looks like she is related to this person from Star Trek. Like, I know they just look like the same person.
Oh yeah, I can see where you get that. I can,
and think about it. She gets telepathic powers too, along with a whole bunch of other stuff.
Oh yeah, she gets almost godlike powers. Yeah, exactly. And you can probably see a little bit of similarities. Of course, a little bit faster, more extreme with Where No Man's Gone before. But that's kind of a bit of a kind of a thing you kind of get with science fiction. Somewhere along the line, it seems like you get a telepath or someone with psi abilities. Well, they really went serious with Babylon 5 on exploring that route.
Right.
And
so you said that one of the things that as Earth was further developing, the telepaths started coming about. What exactly was it that made it the telepaths start coming about? Was it like some event, or was it just natural evolution?
It started happening, and you find out more about the story, and I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, it started coming upon. Basically, every species in Babylon 5 have telepaths except the Narn. And the Narn used to have telepaths, but about 1,000 years ago, they were all wiped out. And Jakar, in the first pilot, by the way, was trying to get it on with Lisa Alexander to try to, get a new line, hopefully have ability to get the psi gene going in the Narn way. Now, I have no idea if genetically that could even be possible, but Jakar was a bit of a dirty old man in this.
He certainly
by the way,
looks like it.
And Andrea Thompson, by the way, was the actress who played Talia Winters, the second one.
Okay.
But yeah, every species has telepaths, and they're used differently along the way, or viewed differently along the way by each species, but the Narn. And the Narn want them, but they don't have them. They are a dying people. That's it. We're talking about the one lines, Kosh goes, they are a dying people. Who? The Narn or the Centauri? Yes.
Right.
So basically making a prophetic thing that they ain't gonna, they're not gonna advance, evolutionize, evolutionally. That the Minbari and the humans are the ones that are going to keep on attaining into the future, and we actually do get to see what humans look like a million years in the future. But again, I'm not going to ruin that.
Fair enough. So let's now talk specifically about Midnight on the Fiery Line. As I said, that is the only episode so far that I have seen. I do intend to keep watching. But
and I just want to sit back and say, anybody that does want to see it, it's on Tubi for free. Remastered.
I believe Blazerhog Darren. Let me find it real quick.
Yeah, he said
he said it was on Roku. So yeah, if you got Roku, watch it there. If not, download Tubi. It's free, and that's how I've been watching it.
Right, and you definitely go that way, and it's free. I don't think it's
the Phantom Bulligans.
Bulligans.
Yep. So, going back to Midnight on the Firing Line.
Right.
I watched this episode having not seen the movie that came out before it. And
Which is good. You don't need to see that movie. Really don't.
One thing that struck me the most about the episode is specifically the relationship between Londo and Jakar. How you spend more time getting to know, at least from what I noticed, you spend more time getting to know Londo than you do Jakar. Maybe the show's trying to frame them as Londo's the good guy, but really
Facebook, or not Facebook, but StreamYards did it again. And I think thank you, Phil. What he's trying to go at is they're trying to frame. Okay, you're back. Hi, welcome back.
So, what I was saying before I got rudely interrupted by my internet problems is Londo and Jakar, there's really no good guy or bad guy between them because they both have their values, but they also have their flaws. And I really like how they portrayed that.
Right. I mean, the great thing about Babylon 5, especially if anybody's going to be watching it fresh now, is how different this is compared to a lot of stuff we've been handed in storytelling. This is truly a world building, galaxy building. This is definitely one where you see the hero's journey, as you might see, as people like to quote Joseph Campbell.
Okay.
But yeah, everyone has their weaknesses. Everyone has their strengths. Everyone has their moment to crow, and everyone has a moment where they're knocked down and need to pick themselves up.
Right.
Everyone has a struggle in here, and they have something that they need to overcome. And again, that's a journey. This is one of those shows where no, it's not where he's me. No, it's like I can identify with this person. I can
Right.
identify with this person's struggle. It might not be my problem, but I can identify with it. I have that empathy.
Like one thing, again, to further go along with this, it was the Narn that ultimately attacked the Centauri outpost, and yet Londo was ready to commit murder on Jakar.
Right,
And so
exactly.
again, both of basically what I'm saying is neither party's innocent.
No.
Both sides have made mistakes, and both sides are upholding the values of their people.
I think it's a little bit more beyond making mistakes. I think it's right down just being rather nasty to each other. And, if you note on there, Garibaldi knew what Londo had. That's why he says, I'm going to give you so much time to get so much time, and I'm going to come inspect your quarters, which means I want you to clear everything else so I don't have to I don't want to pad the paperwork.
Right.
But yeah, the important thing, and it's even stated late as the season goes along, not everyone is who they seem to be or appear to be.
Right.
And it's natural. It's natural progressions of people, natural reasons why these people are doing the things they are, whether it's desperation or avarice, or glory, revenge. It doesn't matter. Each one has that. Each one has that flaw. Each one has that strength. And what's going to happen as these characters evolve?
Oh yeah.
And that's the important thing. You see an evolution of the characters in the storytelling. They're not stagnant. If there's one problem I can sit back and say about Star Trek, because it's episodic, right? It's the creature of its day. But you had something magnanimous, or not magnanimous, but something happens that was greatly impacts everybody, and the next episode, it's like nothing happens.
And I especially noticed this, by the way, in TNG.
Right. And, like in the original series, Uhura loses her memory, but in the next episode, it's back. But they sat back and said, it's completely gone. She has no memory, but now everything's back to normal. Again, it's a creature of its era, so, I'm not being hard on it. TNG, of course, continued that as it went along. But for Babylon 5, being that was planned out, there was a little notebook. He knew where the characters needed to go and how they did it. And if something came along that threw a spanner in there, he had a backup for it. And he needed to do that many times as the show went along. He lost his first officer. And I'm trying to remember what her name was. Let me take a look at her. That was played by Tamlin Tamata, and I think she was in the Picard series. But she was also on a bunch of other things. And there was some big plans for that character that was going to be, shattering. That got moved on to a new character because of that, because she wasn't able to come in. Michael O'Hara, unfortunately, we found out after he died, had some bipolar issues, some mental health issues that was causing issues on the set. And JMS said, we'll stop production so you can get some help. And Michael O'Hara said, no, I'm not going to have the show stop for me. It's just best if I go and keep on going a story. So the character of Sinclair, his storyline, well, it's kind of an interesting thing. Some of it gets passed on to the new commander, Sinclair, Captain. Trying to keep track of the, especially when Sinclair and Sheridan gets moved on to Sheridan, but some of it still stays with him, and I'm not going to give away that.
Okay.
But the thing is, with him leaving, that had a more dramatic effect of when that reveal happens later on to the show when he guest stars. That would not have been as impactful as just a guest star of the week type of situation like they originally had planned. It really, really helped, I think, influence the show on that aspect. The aspect that they didn't know if they were going to have a fifth season greatly affected it because they kind of rushed the fourth season.
Which let's talk about that real quick. It's how many seasons total is it?
5.
5 seasons.
You have,
okay.
Yeah, you have 5 seasons, and you have 5 movies. You have the pilot movie, The Gathering. Then you have In the Beginning, when they went to TNT. They did In the Beginning, which was a prequel talking about the Earth-Minbari War. So we got to see what was going on with the Earth-Minbari War. Then you had, after that, Third Space, which was basically Lovecraft in space. There's a, you have hyperspace, and then there's this third space. And in that third space, you basically have like these Cthulhu-ish destroyers of galaxies in there, and they accidentally open that gate.
Wow.
So it's definitely eldritch horror on that one.
Just as a side note, imagine a beginner series on Lovecraft.
Oh God.
Maybe someday, but not anytime soon.
I'm not that well versed on Lovecraft. I'm trying to read his stuff, but I tell you, that cosmic horror is something else. But it's influenced everything. I mean, you'll see its fingers creeping into, I think, everything. Babylon 5, even Star Trek to a degree, even Star Wars with the EU. Then you had River of Souls, which was about the Soul Hunters, which you would see in the next episode, I believe, of Babylon 5 if you watch. A Call to Arms, which was basically, it wasn't a pilot, but it was a lead-in to the Crusade series. And then, of course, and you had the Legends of the Rangers, which was trying to jumpstart a Ranger series, which you'll find out more about the Rangers as time goes along. And then, of course, The Road Home, which was the animated one that came out last year.
Okay.
So you had those movies right there on that. I mean, you had 5 seasons. Those movies, you even had a direct-to-DVD, The Lost Tales, which was like 2 mini episodes packaged together in there that was made just for video DVD. So, and then along the way, you have books, you had comics, you even had some action figures, but it didn't necessarily get the big merchandising, as you might say, like Star Trek or others. In fact, one of the episodes, written by Peter David, by the way, was poking fun at merchandising.
I'm sure.
On Babylon 5, yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds like this is definitely something that I want to get deeper into. And so I'm going to definitely keep watching it. I want to do some form of review show with it, but I don't know for sure what that's going to look like yet.
And it'll have to be careful because, like I said, there's a site out there. It's called the Lurker's Guide to Babylon 5.
Okay.
And this is the thing that kept us alive during Babylon 5. We'd watch it, the show episodes, and a bunch of us would go there, read the stuff that's on it, go to news groups and talk about it. But it would have all the information or as what people would know. Yeah.
So this is a website, right?
Yep. I got it in the private chat there for you.
Okay. Let's pull this up real quick.
I'm going to put it in mine. I think they need to. They started doing a little bit of a redo on that because of the new movie, but it hasn't really been touched much at all. But we live by this page. I mean, it would go through episodes. They'd have what JMS would have to talk about behind the scenes stuff. This was the thing that we ran to every week. And then they come to an episode and says, if you have not seen this episode yet, do not read any further.
Yeah, I'm not clicking anything beyond what's there on the screen. But it definitely looks like I'll be referring to this quite a bit.
Yeah, I do. I still do to this day. I really do to this day. I mean, I just found the other day unpacking, because I'm still unpacking here in Tag Cottage. You know what I'm doing? I'm just going to take this thing down here because that interferes when I do stuff like this. But yeah, I mean, like this is one of the books that we had. It's a fair book back then, but the A to Z, the Babylon 5, we'd follow through. Boom.
Okay.
And then we had like unofficial Babylon files that would go through episodes and have notes and such. As you can see, the one's pretty thick. The other one, which follows up the series, isn't as thick. But I mean, it goes through details of each episode. And
Low Spec says there's a good Babylon 5 mod for Free Space 2 Open. Never
that's
played
the one
that before, but I'll check it out.
I think that's the one with the Star Fury, right? Yeah,
I think so.
Now, one thing is JMS worked with NASA in JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, when he was doing these shows, especially when he got to Crusade. And they were so impressed with the design of the Star Fury that NASA wants to use that design for future spaceships. No, when we land on Earth, but they use for like utility work and such like that, because they made a utility version of that in the show. And it's like, oh, this would be perfect. You thought this out completely right, how a space vessel like that would work. So, when you have people taking notice of what you're doing at NASA, you're doing something right.
Okay. So I think we're going to go ahead and close it here, because I do want to go deeper into this, but I feel like we've reached a point where in order to go deeper, I've got to start watching it.
I encourage anyone who hasn't seen it, please. Back in the day, I'll just sit back and say, in the back in the day, of course, you had that stupid war, just like you had even before that. I watch Star Wars, so I don't want Star Trek. I have Star Trek. I want Star Wars. Yeah, and, everyone taking lines, and it's like,
I've been guilty of that.
Yeah, but it's like, you can like both. Don't limit yourself. Well, you had the same thing with Star Trek DS9 and Babylon 5. So you had the lines drawn in the sand there. You either so you had people either watching DS9 or watching Babylon 5, and neither the two shall meet. I watch both because, again, I'm a sci-fi junkie. I'm there. If it's good, that is. Even if it's not that good, I'll watch it. It was fun. So you had that. So if you never saw it, of course, again, being that it was a syndicated network, not everybody had it, and it was sometimes it aired different days of the week or even times. So some places might be showing it at midnight, right, on a Wednesday. Well, who's going to watch it?
No.
Right? Yeah, exactly. They were trying to get a syndicated network, but some places were playing Hoyle and putting it at a good time. Some places were playing games with it, and until it got to TNT, where it got a little bit more of a stable time every same bat time, same bat channel, or in this case, same Babylon time, same Babylon channel.
Nice.
There we go. So if you, and don't kid yourself, even Star Trek had its problem. Next Generation, DS9, they did the shuffle games there too. Some people like Mike from Pacific 414, he said he had it perfect. They'd have one right after the other, so it's like you need to switch the channels.
Oh wow.
Right.
That does sound nice.
Right, exactly. So I encourage anyone, and give it a try. I mean, just don't go by. I mean, the first episode I think really grabbed me because it was so much different than what we were having. And I encourage anyone that if you like good storytelling, anything like that, give this a try. In the first season, the first season isn't so, as important, but there are gems in there. There's going to be some important stories in there that's going to really reflect as it goes along. It's when you get into season 2 when you really start needing to watch because everything is now falling into place. But there's things that happen in that first episode that's going to refer all the way to the last episode, because JMS had the last episode all planned and all ready. He even had the name for it, Sleeping in Light. And that was the big tease. It's like, oh, what does he mean? What's this about? Sleeping in Light. So that's what we were all aiming for. It's like, well, we're enjoying the journey, but how does it end? In fire. As Koch would say. So, Give it a try, everybody. Honestly, it is one of the best science fiction TV shows out there. Yes, some of the graphics are dated. It was a show that attempted to do all CGI special effects. One of the first to do all CGI special effects in a series. So some of that stuff looks a little dated now. Yeah, is to be expected. But then again, look at a lot of shows and their special effects and how they're dated now to this
Oh,
day.
of course.
It was a lower budgeted show because obviously they didn't have that powerhouse name Star Trek behind it. They were untested property, and as it goes along, things got more improved. It has a different look. It has a different style. So it's like you're going to go in there and you're expecting to see things like Starfleet or whatever. No, this is a different universe. Divorce yourself from that and enjoy the differences that you're going to be getting. Like Duchess is saying right now.
Hi, Duchess. Well, with that, guys, I think we are going to go ahead and shut it down. So before we go, I do want to bring you guys awareness to something. This is not going to be the last. This is not going to be the last beginner series we do. Next week, Baron's coming back, and we're going to talk about Dune, because the new movie has come out, and we figure since Dune has kind of come back into popularity because of the new movie, let's go over just Dune as a whole, the books, the 84 movie, the sci-fi series, and of course the new stuff. Because maybe there's some people that are only just hearing about Dune from only the new movies, and you're wondering, wait, Dune, what's this? So let's get into it. But aside from that, and real quick, John Rendell says, great show, guys. Good to see you both again. Thank you.
Thank you, Super Inch.
Aside from that, though, I'm going to bring you guys, I'm going to show something real quick. So on the Fandomology YouTube page, I just posted this in the community tab. I said, hey, guys, what fandoms would you like to see covered on beginner series? Post your suggestions here. So whatever you guys would like to see me cover, this is where you post your suggestions. I will look at them, and if I can find someone that is knowledgeable.
Did we lose him again? I think what you're trying to say, find someone who's knowledgeable in that. He will try to get them on and talk about it like we have been doing tonight, and of course did before when he did this originally. And he's back there. I also put, by the way, in my chat the link to Fandomology, not to confuse to my Fandomology that I had. I was kind of letting him have it back again,
Yes.
a nice guy. But I got the link in my chat. Please go like, sub, and then look for this on Tuesday. But continue on, Paul, now that you're back.
Yeah, I'm going to have to reset my router. But anyways, as I was saying, if I know someone that is knowledgeable about this, or if I'm knowledgeable about it myself, we'll do a presentation on it. And let me tell you this, it is not limited to movies or books. It could be anything. It could be a video game series. It could be a book series. It could be a movie series. It could be a sports team. It could be just a sport in general. Like imagine doing a beginner series on cricket. I don't know anything about cricket. I know it's a popular sport, but I don't know anything about it. So we could do that. We could do a band.
I know enough just to watch it and enjoy it. I got the scoring bit down a little bit when I was watching. It's like, okay, I'm figuring it out now. But I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Exactly. Now, I will say this. We are gonna kind of shy away from things that are already really well known. So there's no sense in doing a beginner series on Star Wars as a whole. However, Baron, you brought up a good point on our last stream. We could do one specifically on the EU, especially in this day and age, because that's kind of fallen by the wayside in the populace.
Well, it's kind of funny. EU is still burning strong out there. I'll go and visit the Wikipedia page, and they'll have the little polls in there, and they'll throw things down. What do you think's better, Disney canon or what they call Legends? I still call it the EU, and it's amazing how many times the EU is beating Disney on there. And Wikipedia it has a tendency to want to lean towards the Disney and guess but that way.
Right.
So the love for the EU is still out there, but yeah, I mean, what I like to call the trendies out there, the trendy fans that have infiltrated in and gave us a state of Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who. They don't know anything other than the little bubble that they have. Yeah, I mean, if that's all you're familiar with is that one, you should know what came beforehand or what helped inspired or what's being taken from and being reused and not necessarily all that successfully.
Exactly. So like I said, I have that post in the community tab. If I could pin it to the top, I would. But like I said, put your suggestions in the comments of that post, and we will look at those and see where we can go with that from there. Also, tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, we're beginning Two Towers with Phil. I know things have been getting pushed back with that. I'm sorry, but we are doing it for sure tomorrow. And then at some point in the week, we're going to do a gaming stream too.
Ooh.
So we got some stuff coming up. I hope you guys stick around for it. Baron, is there anything coming up on your channel?
Well, just Saturday, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time on Fandom Legacy. Being that I'm not under the weather like I had been, my apologies to everybody. We're going to be actually talking about Babylon 5 Season 4. We're in season 4. It's hard to keep track of where we're going with that. But yeah, we're going to be going in and talking about season 4. Doing like about 4 episodes of series talking about it. Getting into a little bit of the crux behind it. Even sitting back saying if we liked it or not. And yeah, we're just like any fandom. Not every episode we're going to give, saying that, oh, this was great. No, if it's stunk, we'll say it. Like Grey 17 is missing. It stinks, or at least half of it stinks. There's half a story.
I think I've got a certain clip here to help accentuate the point.
It stinks.
Did I get that to you?
No, Mike did. I've actually got I've got a lot of Pop Talk clips here, like this one.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grabbed It Stinks for mine, and of course for Mike. So it gets used quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, so we're honest about it. Not everything is going to be shiny. Some storylines not necessarily going to be the greatest, but we're honest about it. It's just like we used to do in the old days. We're not going to go out there like how a lot of people today. Every episode's the greatest ever, and that's impossible. That's impossible, especially when you're dealing with 22 episodes a year for some. There's always going to be some little clunker or one that doesn't shine as bright as the others. So, but
exactly.
But overall, for Babylon 5, it is a bright beacon.
Absolutely.
It is out there, and it's worth taking a step back and looking at it, especially with talks about a reboot, which I'm not necessarily excited about, even if it is being done by JMS, because really, I don't think it needs to be done. This is a great story the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's why even, certain sociopolitics aside, I've just been kind of blanketly against the Disney live action remakes. But that's a talk for another time.
Right. Well, the thing is you as an artist with your songwriting and playing and all that, and JMS being an artist with his writing, when is an artist ever happy with what they have? They always want to try to improve. They don't think you can go out there and tell someone this is the greatest ever, and they'll pick through everything they think is wrong with it, and they want to do better. So that's what you got there. So I think.
Right. So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and shut it down. So for Baron Norman Tags, Fandomology, and myself at Fandomology, Baron, if you've got an outro slogan, what is it?
Bye. Well, bye. I don't really have one. I don't really have one. So
all right.
I just thank everybody.
I wasn't sure.
I mean, basically, my outro is thank you, everybody, for being here. We love you all. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here, and we appreciate every one of you. Even those that lurk and don't go into the chat, because even you watching us means something. So absolutely. Even if you don't like what we're doing, you're still watching. We appreciate you.
Yep. And so for those of us here on Fandomology, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, I'm bringing this back full time. Full time, I'm bringing this back. The Force is family. And we will see you guys later.